Hello, and welcome to Stumbling Forward, a podcast about real people and the failures, spiritual awakenings, life changes, and lessons learned that shape them into who they are today. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Stumbling Forward. I am Erika Taylor-Beck, and today I have the opportunity of interviewing Mary Clavieres. Mary, hello, welcome. Thanks for joining.
Hi, Erica. Thank you so much for having me today.
Lovely to have you. Would you like to tell us a little bit about Mary? Who are you? What do you like to do?
Sure. Yeah. So, the long and short of it, let's see. I'm a transformation coach, and I'm someone that's really obsessed with the mind body connection. So, I just love learning new things, love learning so much about how we operate as humans and how to make life better in any ways that it's possible to do that.
Very interesting. So you're a transformation coach. How long have you been doing that?
Well, I've been doing transformation in different forms for over 20 years now, I guess, because I was doing it in my corporate work and then eventually used that when I went to having my own business. So it's been a journey. It's looked a few different ways. In the beginning, for me, it was much more about transforming. I'm an engineer by background, so it was transforming systems and processes in manufacturing plants. And now it's more about transforming humans and how we live our lives.
This is fascinating. Also, I love that you are in engineering because that's not typically a very female-oriented field. So yay for you.
Thanks. Yeah, I was one of less than a handful of female students in most classes.
Yeah, that would make sense. That's, I think, still common even in the corporate space. So
Yeah.
how long were you in corporate, and then when did you decide to jump out of that to do more focused on people?
Yeah, I was in corporate almost 15 years and I was working with manufacturing sites doing a lot of lean transformation, so figuring out how to work better. And a piece of that is related to people. So it's not just the equipment and the systems, but it's also the teams and how the teams behave together and also the mindset around that. So I always worked with people in a special way too. And then when I left my job, yeah, there's a whole story about around behind leaving corporate, but basically it was not time for me to be there anymore. I had two young kids and I was having to travel a lot and it was just really hard on the system, and I had a boss at the time that did not really understand that. So I had been building a product business on the side actually, and eventually left to build that full time. And even after I left corporate, I was building the product business and continuing to do consulting and eventually coaching around leadership, transformation, and all these things. So it's kind of a thread that's weaved through in different ways. But it was my product business at the time. I don't have it anymore, but it was that business that helped me kind of make that jump from corporate to doing my own thing.
That's amazing because it's not easy to jump from a very steady paycheck, even if the work is not always steady, because if you're traveling and whatnot, it's very
Yeah.
chaotic. Many years ago, I had a job. It was very brief. It was less than a year where I was traveling like 3 weeks out of the month. And I
Yeah.
wasn't told I was going to be traveling that much. It wasn't supposed to be that much. I would get back in town on a Friday afternoon and, hey, on Sunday, we're going to such and such place. And I could not make plans. I could not do anything. I was tired all the time. It
Yeah.
was too much. I left that job to go somewhere where I could train virtually, which I loved it. So good for you for putting you and your family first with that. What type of product business did you have?
I sold women's mesh underwear.
Interesting.
After having a baby or a surgery of any kind, they're super stretchy. For anyone listening that's not familiar with them, they're very stretchy. There's no elastic band, so they don't put pressure around the midsection. And I got some in the hospital after I had my daughter, but then I couldn't buy more afterwards. And I said, why aren't these available? But as we know, there's many products and services that are not readily available for women after all kinds of things, especially health things. And so
It's a whole
I
different
used
podcast.
that. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was selling. I was selling mesh underwear. It was mostly for women after they had babies and also after surgery.
That's incredible. So did you sell this business?
I closed it actually, didn't have a lot of inventory left at the time. And so I donated it to a program that helps women, specifically focused on rehousing and these kinds of things. And so I donated that there and I closed the business because eventually my family moved to France. Well, COVID hit, and then my family moved to France, and it just felt like there were different layers to all of that. And I was like, okay, this isn't fitting anymore for who I am, what I'm doing, and running a product business has its own complexities that I said, okay, the sun is setting on this business.
Especially if you're moving to different countries, the logistics of everything and adapting it is different.
Yeah, honestly, the cost and logistics and everything, I feel for small business owners when they have a product because between the price and holding the inventory and then also the shipping has gotten more and more expensive even when you are shipping
Yeah.
something really light, and so it all layers on too. And I was like, okay, this is a lot. That's it served a time and a place and a purpose for me, and then it was time to do something different.
Yeah. But I love that you did that to create your own business and a product and sell that. That's really impressive because it's not something that most people are able to do. So good job.
Thank
Fantastic.
you. Thank
So
you.
then, so you switched, you moved to France, and then was this when you started to transition into the transformation coaching, or was there a step in between?
I was always kind of doing that on the side and in the background with my product business to varying degrees, though. So when we moved to France, okay, well, moving to a different country has its own work associated with it. So I took a little time to do that and eventually ramped up on the transformation side of things and said, hey, I really love this space. I love working with business owners and executives, and I still want to bring my business background and expertise to helping people. So why not do that from here? So then I focused on growing it more, making it more intentional.
Excellent. And when you talk about transformation coaching, I know you mentioned working with business owners and folks like that. What does that mean when someone hears transformation coach? What's transforming? What do you do?
So that's a great question because it can look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. So, in the way I approach it, I say the word coach because people understand that, but I myself act more as let's say, a mixture of coach, advisor, guide, mentor, depending on the situation. So, a lot of times coaches are very focused on asking questions and the client gets to their response and finds their way that way. But I have so much experience with running businesses and teams and large groups and systems and process and all of that, that sometimes it's coaching them on something, but a lot of other times it might be guiding them or sharing tools with them that might help them. So at the basis of it all in terms of transformation is really you want to make a change in your life. I really love working with people that are ready to do something different, willing to do something different, and open and curious to that. So it can be executives that have something that's not working and they want to build the relationships with their team. It can be individuals or small business owners that are looking to grow their business. And honestly, there's life coaching stuff mixed in because now we work from home. We have things very digital. Life and business are intertwined in so many ways. But the forward facing of it for me is transformation around business and career. And it really just means that you're ready to do something differently and you want some kind of support or guidance or container to get you there because you don't know all the things you need to do to get to that next level and you want someone to support you. I think it's probably similar in your type of work, right? So I come in and support people with whatever that looks like for them. And it just depends. I have an overall approach of what it looks like, but I really customize to each person and where they are because we're really moving more towards a society of individuation and everyone is kind of paving their own path. And in order to do that, you have to know yourself. So there's a lot of transforming in terms of understanding yourself, self-awareness, your beliefs and thought patterns, and your values and all of those things too. So long maybe answer to it, but I think it's all intertwined. But the main premise is that you're ready and willing to try something differently in your life because you want some type of change. Your life right now is not working for you the best that it could, and you want to change.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it's too long of an answer because it all is interconnected. If you want to make a change here, you might have to be changing something over here because it's not in a vacuum. Who you are at work is not very different from who you are at home. So if there's an issue with building relationships and connection, that's going to be something that's impacting your personal life and your professional life. And so you have to address it in both places.
Exactly.
To me, it makes very perfect sense. What you're doing is something that's similar to what I'm trying to do is to blend like the corporate space with the spiritual space because they very much go hand in hand as well. But I sometimes feel like there's a disconnect between the two. And when somebody in a typically a more corporate space and mindset, information feels like it's a little too nebulous. Do you feel like that's true of the people that you're working with, or are you seeing that people are very open-minded to it or maybe closed off to it? Are you seeing a mix of both coming to you for help?
So I like to work more with the people that are more open. I have worked with more traditional corporate settings, and the teaming work that I do can work really well. But on the individual level, if I'm working with someone, they really do need to be open. So I feel like there's kind of like a spectrum within companies of how open they are to this type of thing and maybe how closed off they are. I think some of it from what I've seen is tied to size of the company sometimes, but also very much tied to the leadership involved. So larger companies, it's harder to break through all that, right? Because they just have so many layers to it. But the more small and mid-sized companies, they're usually building something that's different. They know that there's something in there for them that they're doing that's maybe non-traditional, and then they're a little more open to those other ways of working. I come from a very big corporate background, and I know that there's lots of layers to that. So I'm not saying it's not possible for those people. I do think we're generally moving in a direction where we need to be more aware and more conscious of how we're showing up and what we're doing and even how we're running companies. And I think there's a wide variety within that of who is ready for that next level of or step and who is not. So usually, just from my experience, I can kind of tell who those people are or not when I first work with them. And I'm not afraid to say, hey, this isn't a fit. We can't serve everyone all the time. And really, my energy and my time is best matched and suited to people that, again, are willing to do something different and are open to exploring different options and want to learn new things. I'm not there to go on a hamster wheel of saying the same thing 20 times and the person's not taking action and then they're complaining about why things aren't getting done,
Right,
to
right.
each their own type of thing, I guess.
Yeah. So are you typically working more with organizations or teams, or are you working with individuals, or is it a combination of the two?
It's a combo. My personal preference is with individuals, but I do both. But I really love the one on one work because
Mhm.
it's something that I just think you can just go so much farther faster with one on one work.
Right. Especially if they're aligned and interested, because they
Yep.
want to do that work. I was thinking, you talked about larger corporations and how typically based on leadership, it dictates how open and ready the business might be. But there are layers because I know that I was one of those layers that would have been very interested in something, but I don't necessarily know that I would have been able to get buy-in from layers above me. That's why I was wondering, like, is it typically groups or are you finding individuals who might reach out and say, hey, I know we are not doing this as a business, but I would love to work with you because I think what
Yeah.
you're doing is really helpful or impactful.
Yeah. It can very much be individuals that work in companies, but they're focused on their own personal development and self growth and looking to make their own changes in a way.
Okay. No, that's great. And so I know when we talked originally, I know you're a big proponent of human design. Is that one of the tools that you use for coaching? And are there other tools that you have up your sleeve that you would like to share?
Yeah, I love human design because I find it such a fascinating tool. And it's really, I think it depends on the person, right? Some people might think it can be very much on the spiritual side of things, but in terms of energy and the mind body connection, I have seen it prove to be very fascinating and accurate. So I do use that because it helps people to see their unique blueprint and how they show up and where they may have some blocks and ways that they could move through it. But I do have lots of tools in the toolkit because I really believe anyone that's looking to make a change in their life, we're all unique beings and the approach is going to look differently for each of us. So I see it as my job is to have all these different tools in the toolkit. And then depending on where you're at and who you are and your style, you might get this tool, you might get that tool, you might get this over here, that over there. If I keep with the toolbox analogy, let's build your house the way you want it to look. So then it might be other things. And that can be mind body work. I also do a few other types of assessments. They all have their own time and place as well. But there's a lot of different threads in there depending on the person.
Interesting. I'm working with you and we do a human design. I fill in my details and get my chart. How quickly are you able to assess that to start giving them some suggestions? And just the reason why I'm asking this is I shared with you before that I have done my chart. I know high level what it is, but there are so many components to it. Even on the free chart that doesn't dive in super deeply, there are so many pieces to it that I can tell you what some of the things are. Like I'm a 4/6 generator, but I don't really understand all the ins and outs. So how long does it take somebody to, once you have that information, are you able to really help them based on your knowledge of human design, or is it dependent on their understanding and knowledge of human design to be successful with that?
So I incorporate it into my work in individual coaching, but I also do one on one readings, like to kind of explain something to someone. So if I was doing a reading with your information, there are places that I would start with what to share with you. Here's the thing: human design, you can go down a rabbit hole. There's a lot of
Yes.
information on the chart. There are so many little shiny objects to get into. And in my mind, like any other tool that you might use, you have to be careful that the tool doesn't become a hindrance or a way for you to get stuck and make more stories. So, yes, you can know the things about the nodes or your incarnation cross and your life purpose and all that kind of stuff. But if you're not at a basic level understanding how your energy works, how you best make decisions, and I'll throw in profile there too, how your personality and how you show up in the world. If you're not practicing that and really embodying that, the rest of the stuff does not matter in my mind. It's not going to do anything for you because you need to be in tune with your own mind body connection first. And I think, let's say type, so your generator type, and in human design it's called strategy and authority. So your type and your decision making style. You said you're a generator. The first place that I would start with someone is to say, okay, are you in tune with your energy? Do you understand how it works? Are you responding to the world around you, or are you trying to initiate all the time? Those kinds of things. And then I'd say, how are you with your mind body connection? How are you with making decisions? Do you work in the moment? And are you connected to that gut response, or are you making decisions from your mind? The sacral response is what your body does. So even on a Zoom call with a client, I could see if someone is saying yes to me, but they're leaning back while they're saying yes, right? That's not really a yes. That's their sacral response saying no, their body saying no, but they're still trying to overthink it with their mind and say yes. So I wouldn't say that decision doesn't count. I would just, of course, highlight to them and say, okay, how connected are you with this piece of your mind body connection, and take it from there. It's not bad to look at those other areas of the chart, and I like looking at them for different things, and I will highlight centers to someone or some other places related to their energy if it's going to be helpful, but it very much depends on the conversation at the really base level. And a lot of human design readers or analysts, I think, would say something similar, is that, are you really connected to your energy, to your way of operating, and to the way that you best make decisions as a first step?
Very interesting. And actually, when you were talking about that, I felt a little called out, Mary,
Well, I
because it's
picked on
true. I
you
do.
because you said
No,
you're
no, and I signed up for that. That's what I did. But you're right, and it's something that I know, but my mind body connection probably is not as good as it should be because I very much operate a lot with my mind and I don't listen nearly as much to my body, and that really is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I think, grow up in society that you're encouraged to think more and not to feel more. What do you think you should be doing? And that's what's been conditioned by so many other things, like life experiences or just society. But like you're saying, you really need to feel, is this what I want to do? Is this for my best interest? And part of what I think my chart said was I need to take a little bit of time. I'm not really good at responding in the moment because I need to feel it. And so that's when I say called out, it's not you. It's more of like
yeah.
I know that I need to be doing that, and it's hard to undo. I'm like 41 years old. It's hard to undo life to get back in touch. So when you talk about mind body connection, is it more about like thinking versus feeling, or is this more like spiritual versus logical? How would you define that for folks maybe who aren't understanding that
Yeah,
term?
that's a great question. To your point, probably 99% of us are operating from our minds on a daily basis. So for me, the mind body connection is first awakening and realizing, hey, I have a body that's talking to me all the time, right? Because first of all, we're very disconnected and we don't pay attention. Usually, what we do is we let our minds run the show. And then at some point, something is going really wrong. We keep ignoring our inner instincts, our gut, whatever you want to call it, right? And we eventually get some kind of ailment in our body. And at that point, we're like, oh, what's going on? I have this something with my leg. I need to fix it. Right. And for me, the mind body connection and unlocking that whole thing as a concept is understanding and proactively knowing and working with the fact that your mind and your body are talking to each other all the time. And the more you can get out of your mind from overthinking mode and listen to your body and what it's telling you, the more you can direct your life from a place of inner knowing. And so this is maybe where it gets to be more spiritual, although I really feel we need both sides of the coin on this too. It's that there is something else driving you. You have, depending on how you believe, but I would say you have a soul. You have something else in your body that leaves when you die. There's something here operating your whole body and it leaves when you die. And so if you want all three of those to work together, the mind, the body, your soul, your higher self, your direction, whatever you want to call it, you need to be willing to get out of your mind and stop having the mind be the driver of everything. That's the key. So by mind body connection, that's generally what I would say is it's really about bringing in awareness to the fact that you are not only your mind and that actually you're much better off in life if you allow and integrate and open up more to that mind body connection, because that's where all your power is, honestly.
Yeah, it's really powerful. One of the things I'd heard recently was this analogy of your mind is more of a computer. It can only show you what you've given it, what it's experienced already. Your
Yeah.
body and your soul are much more connected to source, so they have a much broader knowledge of things that you might not be able to remember from past lives and just as your little human self.
Right.
But your brain is very much just you in your human experience. So for me, my 41 years, that's all it knows. It doesn't remember anything beyond that. So it's very limited. It's kind of like a filing cabinet. You can go there and find information, but it's not going to teach you something new. It's only going to use what it already knows and has, but it's basically staying in the same loop of experience and knowledge. And you do have to shut that down a little bit to feel into the bigger, like you said, more where your power is. But that's hard to do when it's conditioned. Do you have tips for your clients on how to say shh in the head and feel?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. So, well, first I would say yes to all of that with your brain is the filing cabinet and it remembers all these things. And you can still leverage it and use it in a way and reprogram it. So that's part of it too. You want to get out of the mind into the body, see what your higher self is really here to do, and then go back in and still use the mind. It's not like it's bad and we're saying,
Right.
don't help us, mind, but we're saying use it in a way with more intention. Then with the tools and everything, you can visualize and manifest when you're really leveraging everything working together. In terms of practices to get out of the mind and into the body, yeah, meditation is a great one, of course. I also recognize that not everyone likes to sit in a dark room, or it may feel hard for them because when you have this quiet space, it can be very confronting, right? Especially when you're first doing it. So I personally think body exercises are really helpful for me because I've always had, let's say, an analytical, overthinking type of brain. If I give myself something else to do in a way, it helps to empty out my head. So things like body tapping or going for a walk without music or podcasts or anything like that, really kind of connecting however you can connect more presently to the moment. Journaling is another great one. There's all different things like that, again, tools in the toolkit. I have a whole bunch, and then it's find which one works for you in that moment or working for you that day. Maybe one day it is meditation. Maybe another day, oh, I feel like I have this nervous energy I need to turn off and I'm going to go clean my whole house. It can look a lot of different ways and still help you to empty the mind.
Okay, no, that's super helpful. I do know a lot of people, self included, who struggled with meditating and sitting because even if I'm sitting and I have the good intention, my brain starts to go. I had that conversation with Mary earlier today, and it's like, no, 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 be back, in the
Yeah.
moment. And if your brain is very active, it's hard sometimes to quiet it enough to be present. So I love the idea of the active meditation of just being present while you're still physically moving, because that does, I think, help a lot of people. You can do some stretches and you go for your walk, but don't have like the podcasts and the music because that's still external stuff coming at you versus you just
Yeah.
being in the moment. And it's like kind of a way to distract or avoid ourselves, always having a constant stream of something. And it's, like you said, I think it's a little confronting in that silence. But when you are just with yourself, I kind of love it, to be honest. I love silence. And unfortunately, I probably could go days without talking to another human being if I were left to my own devices. So I make sure I don't do that. But I think some people get really uncomfortable with silence and with being alone. Is there a reason why? Because it's not everybody, but when people actually go out of their way to avoid it, oh, I definitely don't want to be alone, so I'm going to go call somebody, I'm going to do something. Is there something that's causing them to not want to sit with their thoughts?
Well, usually in my mind, it's that they have deeper pain and wounds that they don't want to confront in some way. There's things that they've haven't healed or addressed, and so avoidance is a tactic, right? And you just kind of ignore, and but it doesn't go away, it just gets bigger and bigger, and then you probably have some type of major midlife crisis or big thing happen to you because you can't take it anymore. That's my opinion. Yeah, I think we're also just really conditioned, again, as a society to not take time for those things. And there's a lot related to instant gratification and things should be easy. People really underestimate even the transformation journey and what that's like. They expect, okay, I did this once, snap fingers, and now I should be good to go. But that's not how it works. So I think the expectations aren't aligned sometimes, and they also just they're just comfortable in their ways of being. And it can feel really loud. If you turn off all the noises that are always around us, it can feel really loud. And then you have to really look at your own stuff. And looking at your own stuff is really hard for people. That's why a lot of people don't want to do that work.
Right.
It's really hard.
It's really interesting. And I love that you said it's loud. I'm listening to something constantly. I've got my earbuds in and music and podcasts and things. But when I take that off, that's what's loud. Is that silence is loud. And that's actually a
Mm-hmm.
really interesting way to think about it, is that this helps me drown out myself. That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
It's like any other type of habit, right? Where if you're used to piling on and ignoring things and having more noise, then that's what you're used to. And there's this transition period, which can be long or can be short, where you start to do these other practices and you open up to these other ways of being. But I promise on the other side of that, the part where it feels hard, you'll be forming the habit of something new, and you will eventually, when you're connected to that level of peace and that level of inner knowing, you will crave it. Your body will crave it because it feels so much better than all of that other junk.
Yes, that's where I'm at. Maybe that's why I'm so good with silence now.
Yeah, you've worked through some of that now that's a part of you. That's where you want to work from. You want to work from your grounded, centered self instead of being frazzled and thrown around by the world outside you.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense, Mary. You're killing it. You're just killing it today.
Oh, good, because the rest of the week was questionable.
Crushing it on Friday. Get your high note here. So when you work with somebody and maybe they start to underestimate the transformation journey and they're like, okay, well we did this thing one time, I should be healed and ready to go. And you're like, haha, that's not it. Have you had anybody who has quit or maybe taken a pause and then come back months later because it got too much, where they're like, whoa, I don't really want to deal with this and this uncovered stuff I wasn't ready for. So then they ghost you for a little bit. And then at some point they realize, okay, no, I really have to get past that to get past that. Has that happened with you?
Yeah, I would say more for things like when I do a human design reading, for example, a single reading, there's a lot of information in there. They need time to digest, and they'll kind of go away and integrate however they choose and come back months later to say, oh, actually, okay, now I'm ready for this next piece. In my one-on-one coaching containers, those are a year long. So it's built that way on purpose because it's going to take time and it's not meant to rush and cram things in. And really, I pride myself at going at the speed of the person. So it's not to say we have to be here by X date type of thing. It's
Right.
a step in their journey. Yeah, so that's how I see it. I do individual sessions. Like I'll do a one-time session with someone to see if they're a fit and to see how they like it before they commit to a year-long thing, if that's what they're interested in. But those are kind of my only options. But I have had people, for sure, for a reading or something, they'll come back later because time, space, place for everything. And they'll kind of go away and do something else and come back. And I've done that in my life too, with people that I've worked with and coaches, and I've said, okay, I want to join this program now, or now I'm going to take a break. You have to really be tuned in to your own self. This whole process requires so much self-awareness, and to not expect other people to run it for you or to do these things for you. I know it's tricky now because in the online space, especially, there's a lot of people that will sell you on things. They'll try to sell you from a place of lack or scarcity, or, oh, don't miss out on this because it's your only opportunity in life and all that kind of stuff. I
Right.
personally don't operate that way. And, when the time is right for you, you'll come back around if it's ever right for you, but only you can tell. And that's where that piece about connecting in the human design world, like I was saying, the strategy and authority. So really your energy type and your decision-making style, that's where it becomes really important, because when you understand that and you know what it feels like for you in your body and you know your process around it, you'll be able to make decisions in such a more easeful way that you won't feel like you're back and forth of, oh, I don't know if this is the right thing for me or not. That self-awareness is a big piece of, if you're committed to doing this work, you're signing up to do this work, then here we go. It might be
Right.
bumpy for you, but this is what you're calling in this lifetime for yourself.
Yeah. I don't think everybody fully understands, but we did sign up for this before we got here.
Yeah.
So I picked this body, I picked this life, I picked all of the experiences I was going to have before I got here. So things are not happening to me. I knew that they were going to happen. I knew that I would learn these lessons. I think when people hear that, they're like, no, I wouldn't have picked this. And from a human
Yeah.
standpoint, yeah, why would you want to pick something like that? But from a spiritual standpoint, that's an experience that you have gone through. And when I first learned it, we picked this, like, why? Why? But
Yeah.
now I understand a little bit more about it. So I think it's a really fascinating concept.
Yeah, there's always free will and free choice, of course. And I'm of the mindset of, for things that I've called in or asked for in my life, I've decided over the years, how can this be easy? How
Mm,
can I bring more ease and flow into this, even if I'm going through a situation that feels really hard? And don't get me wrong, there's lots of situations that feel very hard, but just what can I call in for extra support and have it be a little bit easier? And it has helped me a number of times. So
awesome.
it's also, don't underestimate, if you want it to be easier, just ask for that extra help.
I think mindset changes too. If you view it as this is happening to me and this is terrible, it's going to feel harder.
Oh yeah.
But if you look at it and say, yes, this is hard, but what am I learning from it? What can I do with this? How do I take this and make something better from it? I always say, like, it's not toxic positivity. Like, this is great. I'm so
Yeah.
happy that this happened. No, like
Right.
it's allowed to suck.
Right.
But instead of just wallowing in that suck, what can I do with this in a way that will benefit me so that I can help somebody else with it or make it easier? I can make it so I'm not struggling so much through it. Like, what can I
Mm-hmm.
do? And that has really shifted my perspective a lot. That anything that really happens, what am I supposed to take from this? Like, if it's an argument or if it's a challenge, my immediate response is to want to react to it. But what am I learning from this? Like, why did I call this in? I picked this argument. Why did I pick this argument? And so when you take some ownership, it does change a little bit. So I feel like things have been, in a sense, easier because,
Yes.
oh, it's a lesson. And I like puzzles and challenges. What can I do with this? And I feel like that has helped versus, oh, this keeps happening.
Yeah.
I think the mindset helps a lot.
Yeah. 1000%. So you're becoming the observer when you do that. That's what you're pulling back from the scene, and you're able to see it from like a third party view, right? You are one of the pieces in the thing, and you're also outside of the thing. And then the self responsibility piece is huge. It's huge. The ownership and really recognizing the part that you play and how you're contributing. It's one of the biggest things, really. So that's great.
I feel better about what I'm doing because at first I felt really called out. Now I'm like, okay, Erica, you're doing better than you thought.
No,
So
you're doing great.
it's like a
You're doing
toss up.
great.
It's a toss up from day to day.
Yeah, for all of us.
So it's
Yeah.
just up and down. You just ride the wave, just ride it
Yes.
out. Excellent.
Yes.
Well, Mary, is there anything else that you want to really highlight while we're here today? Is there anything that you really want to highlight about your services or about what you're doing that you want to make sure that people hear and know?
I would say if you're feeling called for something different, honor that feeling. It can feel really hard, especially depending on the people that you have around you, what type of support system you have, or maybe that you don't have, what your, old beliefs are, all of those things that make noise in our ears. But really honor and trust yourself, because your transformation it's going to come from you. And so the more you can do to listen to yourself and follow what you really want, you could think about a few years from now is we usually get wrapped up in what other people think, what they're going to say, all that kind of stuff. I dealt with a lot of that from leaving corporate. Maybe you did too. And the most I can say is everyone's consumed by their own lives. So why wouldn't you make your life the best you could possibly make it in your own way for what you really want? And so, yeah, if I could leave listeners with something, it would be that. It would be to really honor and trust yourself wherever you are with whatever you feel called to, even if it seems crazy and even if other people don't get it. People didn't get why I was working at night and on weekends after a full-time corporate job to, roll underwear and stick them in bags and like, like they didn't see, but I knew I was there for something different. I knew I was going to change something in my life with that in some way, even if I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. And so I think it's just really important to remind people to honor themselves, to honor their process, wherever you are right now is wonderful. Don't discount or try to go back and dwell on the old things, but just pick up from where you are now and just ask, what do you really want in this life? We're here this time in this way, in this body. Let's not waste it. Let's do something that we want to do.
Oh, I love that. And I think too, you talked about if you're feeling called to do something different, if you're feeling that nudge. I think a lot of people are supposed to have a spiritual awakening this year. I had mine a couple of years ago, and I thought I was crazy because suddenly everything that felt comfortable and where I was happy being, I wasn't comfortable anymore. And so it was a huge shift in my priorities and everything. I thought I was having a midlife crisis. What am I doing?
Midlife
But it was being
awakening.
called. Yes, and I'm so glad that's what it was and not a breakdown because, but I quit my job and I wanted to do something different because I felt like I was supposed to help people in a different way, but I didn't know what it was. I'm gonna figure it out. But that looks reckless to people who are, like stable jobs, do this, do that. You should do things a certain way. And so I love that you're saying you don't have to do anything a certain way. If you feel called to do something, if there's something that you're passionate about that you really want to do, don't stifle it because it's not normal. Do it. It's okay. People might be waiting for you. You might be the one that's going to be a catalyst for something else to happen. And so I think that's really important to hear messages like this from people like you who left their job to do something that they felt called to do, like for me, because it's not so crazy anymore. It doesn't feel like such a big thing. So a lot of people are doing this. I will be okay because they're okay. And so I think it's really important to get your message out there. So thank you for sharing that. If anybody is interested in working with you for transformation or just wanting to see what you're up to or learn more about you, where can they go to find you?
Yeah, so my website is maryclaviere.com and there's a page on there for individuals. There's a page for human design readings, all the things. And then I'm mainly on LinkedIn and Instagram are the main two. So I can share the links with you, but you can search my name on any of those. And I'm also on Voxer. I do tell people if they're interested in working together, they can also feel free to message me on Voxer. My username is my name, Mary Claviere. And yeah, I love voice notes. So it's fun that way to connect
Yeah.
with people.
I think you get a little bit more personality in that than trying to interpret tone through
Yeah.
text.
Yeah, definitely compared to text. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's
I love
awesome.
it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'll get your links and everything. I will put them in the show notes, and that way, if anybody is interested in reaching out to you after this, they can find you. But Mary, it was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing just your knowledge and your experience and your insights. I think I could talk to you for a really long time about a lot of these different pieces, but it's Friday, so I won't do that to you. I will let you get to your weekend. But thank you very much for taking time to chat with us today.
Thank you, Erica. Thanks for having me. And thank you for the work you're putting out into the world, too. It's amazing. So
I
I really
appreciate that.
appreciate it. And I appreciate your platform. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, folks, thank you so much for listening. I will catch you next time on Stumbling Forward. This episode of Stumbling Forward was brought to you by Ori Ara's Self Care Collective. Real women, real lives, and real self care. It's empowering you to take care of yourself one day at a time. If you are interested in joining the Self Care Collective, there are discount codes on the screen. Stumbling Forward member will get you 20% off your first month's membership, or the Stumbling Forward founder will get you 20% off a lifetime membership.